Hi, Marcus. This is Paige. Can you hear me? Hi, Marcus. Can you hear me?
Hello, Paige.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Okay, you can hear me, but I'm not able to hear you.
I'm going to keep testing it. There we
Great.
go.
There you go.
Okay, wonderful. How are you?
I'm okay, and you?
Good.
Do you have a video working?
I do, but I am technically out of my scheduled time, so I don't have my makeup and hair done right now, to be honest with you.
I understand. You know, please let me try to reduce the noise, outside noise here, closing the window.
Yep. And then Janet and Sarah should be popping on as soon as possible. They're just in traffic right now.
And Sarah will be participating as a speaker or just
So yeah, I think that Janet will be the primary person you're talking with, and then Sarah, I think, will just chime in with questions and things like a moderator would, I guess.
Okay, because Janet sent me kind of a resume and some words about her, but she didn't mention Sarah. And
Okay.
I don't know what I have to say about Sarah.
Gotcha. Then she may not have Sarah talking. Every event we've done has been a little bit different. So she was on the last call, but maybe she won't be on this one then. I'll have to ask Janet when she pops on.
Okay.
And so since we're working, I'm going to go grab some coffee really quickly. I'll be back in just a moment.
Okay. Hi, Janet.
Hey, Marcus. Okay, now why is it doing that? I don't know why I look dark. Let's see.
Yes, I see you in the shadow.
Close your shades behind you.
Seems like so silly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Just your silhouette.
We don't want that. Let's see.
Are you able to close like the blinds behind you?
I can try that.
Yeah, it's a bit way.
This is the strangest hotel room, I must tell you. I'm crawling behind a couch, guys. Nope, that didn't do it. Oh, that's better. Ow,
Yeah,
ow.
that's better.
Okay, let's see.
But if you are able to close a little bit more the curtain,
Yep.
I think the light is too
Still too
strong.
bright, huh?
Yeah, too bright on the corner of the screen.
You what you emailed me was a little different than the title. Do you want me to change this title?
Really? Are different? Oh my
If not,
God.
that's totally fine. I'm fine with leaving it. I noticed it was a little different.
No, you know, that's the title that we communicate. It's a little bit, it's a really inspired in what you told me about Portugal approach.
Yep.
And that's fine for us.
Okay. I'm going to go to the, I'm going to the restroom.
Okay.
Okay. How are we?
It is 10 a.m. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
All right, we are going live. Okay.
Okay. I'm okay. And now?
Yes, you are okay.
Yes. Oh, great to have you in a very nice picture. The screen is perfect. And now? And I see here a colleague saying that she is able to listen us. Okay, she's coming. And now, where are you in this world, Janet?
Right now, I'm with you in Sao Paulo.
Yeah, virtually in Sao Paulo, and in presence, in the whole sense of presence, you are here in Brazil, Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
Yes. Ah.
You know, I've always talked about us living in a zero geography world, and everybody always chuckles when I say it, but it's true. Technology makes it possible for us to be with each other no matter where we are.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Doesn't matter where we are. We are connected.
Yes.
Yeah, this is great. Okay. And Marcia is coming. And let's see.
Is that Patty or is it Pat Imerk?
No, Patricia.
Ah, Patricia. Oh, I love that name.
Let's see. Oops. Gallery.
Are we thinking to wait a couple more minutes to see who else joins us, or do you want to go ahead and get started? Looks like we have four attendees with us.
Yes. And I received some WhatsApp message. The people are coming. John with us.
Long time no talk, Joao. Good to see you. There he is. Welcome, John.
Hi, John.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Marcia. Come on, Joao, you should come on camera too. Come join the fun.
Yeah, John disappeared. I'm not able to see him.
Yeah, he's shy.
Yes, really shy guy.
Not hardly. Come on. That's not true. Hey, and Barbara's here too. That's fantastic. Meet Barbara Goby. She's part of our team here at inviteCHANGE.
Great.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Great.
Oh,
I don't know why I cannot access my camera.
Yeah, how come? You're just being shy?
Not much. You know me.
I've never known you to be shy. Come on.
But I can hear you nice and clear.
Excellent. That's what matters, right?
Exactly. And I can see you.
Good to see you. I have two of my compadres with me as well. Steve Thorson, who's our Chief Operating Officer and PCC coach and delivery leader for us. And Sarah Graves will be here any minute. So just know they're in the background listening since we have just the one camera. It didn't occur to me, Marcus, to bring our wide angle camera. We had it yesterday for, with this being International Coaching Week, we've been doing events all over the world. And I was live here in Portland, Oregon, on the west coast of the US, doing a fishbowl coaching session yesterday. It was very fun. We had 3 coaching sessions, an ACC, a PCC, and an MCC. And then we had one of our certified mentor coaches giving feedback to the coach, and then we facilitated a discussion with the people who were observing. And it was just a wonderful 4 hours of learning together.
Great.
Very cool. And somebody said to me, how come we don't do fish bowls more often? And I said, you could invite 4 friends over to your living room and you all could be doing a fish bowl together. So, there's no reason to hesitate. There's nothing better than having peer-to-peer sessions that we then observe and talk about. So just a little extra tip for ICW week.
Great, great. I read this yesterday about the Portland event, and why I was wondering how that thing works. And
well, there you go.
now we have George. He's the current president of Brazil chapter.
Wonderful. Welcome, George.
And we have Silvina too.
Hi, Silvina. Great to see you. Steve's waving.
You have a camera, Silvina.
Oi, estava no mudo, desculpa, boa tarde.
Hello.
I'm thrilled to have everybody on camera, and unless we get over 25, and then we probably, it gets a little squished. But for now, it's fantastic. Let's go ahead and stay connected both visually and auditorily. Makes sense.
More people can join. Leonardo.
Hey, hi, Leonardo.
Our support. What do you think if we start?
I think it makes sense. Let's go ahead and begin. We're going to be recording. So did you have a question, Leonardo?
No. Just to say, how are you doing, guys? It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, super excited that you are here. Fantastic. Welcome.
Okay. Let me open formally this session, okay? This webinar. Boa tarde a todos. Eu sou Marcos Batista, vice-presidente da ICF Brasil. Eu tenho aqui junto comigo vários colegas da diretoria, a começar pelo Jorge Barbosa, presidente, a Wang Xin, que é nossa diretora de desenvolvimento profissional, a Márcia Pauluc, que também que é a diretora de responsabilidade social. Eu não estou vendo todos na tela, então me perdoem aqueles que eu não vejo, mas, de toda forma, dou minhas boas tardes a todos para esse webinar que compõe também aqui as nossas ações na ICW de 2019, né? E que tem aqui a oportunidade de ter a Janet Harvey conosco, né? E vamos falar sobre a relevância e o real valor do coaching para os negócios. E acho que esse é um tema que vem sendo paulatinamente desenvolvido e ampliado por nós em vários eventos, especialmente este ano, né? Eu acho esse tema bastante importante, né? E faz todo sentido a gente ampliar as nossas experiências e o nosso entendimento. A ideia é que a gente tenha um espaço interativo, vamos colher as perguntas, ao final a Janet vai respondê-las, se não forem respondidas ao longo da própria apresentação. Como de praxe, deixar os microfones no mute é legal, porque assim o som fica mais, enfim, favorável. Este webinar ele vai oferecer uma CCU, né, de Research and Development, e, para tanto, vocês devem enviar depois um pedido através do e-mail. Eu vou escrever aí, apoio.gestão@icfbrasil.org, eu vou escrever isso daqui a pouquinho aqui no chat, né? E a gente vai usar aquele tradicional esquema, né, onde a gente apresenta duas palavras que devem ser mencionadas no contexto do e-mail. Eu já digo a primeira vai ser presença, presence, tá? E depois a gente conversa ao final da outra. Se eu esquecer, alguém me lembra, por favor, tá? Acho que tem uma coisa mais importante. Quando for no caso de perguntas, vamos escrever aqui no chat que a gente vai se organizando. Queria falar um pouquinho da Janet, né? Para mim é uma honra poder apresentar a vocês a Janet, com quem eu já tenho tido contato nesses, no mínimo, 2 últimos anos de forma mais intensa. E a Janet eu posso definir como uma pessoa muito interessante, uma pessoa que me inspira muito. A Janet é uma pessoa curiosa, é uma pessoa corajosa, ela é provocativa, ela tem um pensamento inovador e muito amorosa. E vocês vão ver isso, né? A Janet é palestrante, é coach, autora de livros, educadora e posso dizer que também minha mestra. Tenho aprendido muito com ela, né? A Janet é MCC, né, pela ICF, mentor coach, supervisora, ex-presidente da ICF Global, né? E ela traz na sua bagagem experiências, né? Uma experiência executiva, empresarial, corporativa, e também é a CEO da inviteCHANGE. É uma organização muito bacana e muito particular também, né? Bom, Janet, I just give to my colleagues a very short, brief presentation about you. And I think you know what I said because I share with you my
Thank you.
my ideas and my heart. And And I think we can start.
Bravo.
Please.
Just a little housekeeping note for you. I did hear from Sarah just before we started that the ICF came back, and you are going to get a half of an hour of core competency, and then 1/2 hour of resource development. So a little bit of an extra benefit for you.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And thank you. I feel very, very honored, Marcus. And you know what lives in my heart for coaches. This week of the year is always a pleasure for me. I jam pack it with as many things as I can to be with coaches, to celebrate this extraordinary profession we all have chosen to give our time and energy to, and especially to speak about what the contribution is in a positive way to individuals, to teams, to organizations, to society. Of engaging with a coach and stepping into one's own sovereign life. And I think that we don't celebrate and share this story enough. As I've talked with coaches around the world this particular week, in fact, in South Florida last Sunday, there were 6 countries represented in the 30 people that showed up. And what was true in our dialogue is how much we share a common passion for making a positive difference in the world. And the thing I hear most often from new coaches is, nobody ever asks me about whether I have an ICF credential. Nobody ever asks me about whether I've been trained as a coach. Nobody ever wants to understand what coaching really is. When I try to tell them what coaching is, they just glaze over. And I will confess, I will often respond in what the British would say is a cheeky way. And I say to them, so let me get this straight. You spent 12, 14, 16 months giving yourself over to this professional training, practicing, building your client base, studying, getting mentor coaching and passing your exams, and you don't brag about it? It makes no sense to me. Be proud of what your accomplishment is, to have, yes, already arrived as a professional in your lives, and to which you've added this very refined communicating and relating skill set. And as a result, you are very well prepared to engage with a broad range of humanity. Anybody that you want to make a difference in the experience they have of their lives, not just in the moment of the sessions you're having with them, but in a huge ripple effect to everyone that you touch directly, and everyone they touch, and everyone that those people touch. The ripple effect of coaching is something like cathedral building. You may not see the finished product, but it's important to remember in your heart that every interaction you have from the internal coaching stance is making a difference, a big positive difference in the world. Never lose your faith in that. So what you asked me, Marcus, to share with the community and our interaction back and forth today, I'm going to go ahead and put some slides up here in a second, is really to talk about the intrinsic value of coaching for business. And it's been exciting to me to watch the social media and the public press, newspaper, magazines, podcast, radio, TV. They're talking about coaching and what it is in a business setting, in a system of an organization, for coaching to make a healthier workplace. And I want us to explore how to bring some vocabulary to that for each of you to use. And rather than this be me talking head with all of you, I want us to let this be a bit more open. Given our size, everybody actually could come off mute and answer. If you're not comfortable doing that and you'd prefer to put it in chat, that's fantastic. Chat functions at the bottom. Marcus is also prepared to translate for me. If I speak too fast or I say something that you can't quite grab a word for, he's going to flag me. So feel free to chat in Portuguese and he'll bring the question forward for me. So make this time yours. Make it valuable for you rather than passively simply receiving. Let's be in relationship together. Because that's really the first thing I want you to understand, is that the intrinsic value of coaching for business is the restoration of relationship, as equally important as the ability to implement and execute transactions well. Of course, organizations are about performing on behalf of their customers, performing on behalf of the organizational health. That's a given. They wouldn't be in business if that wasn't true. And unfortunately, we have, in many ways, overused the strength of being able to deliver results. And the cost is to the well-being of the workforce. And as we're going to talk a little bit about today, that's at our peril. It is a downward spiral. If you exhaust the personnel, they will not be as effective with customers, and ultimately they're going to see that in the bottom line. It takes a while for it to happen. It's a little bit like the metaphor we often hear is the frog is in the pan of water, and we're turning up the heat a little bit at a time. So the frog kind of gets used to being in the stress of the heat and doesn't realize that they can jump out of the water until they're already boiled to death. And this is what we see. The numbers in America, just the United States, not North America, right? So if I added in Canada, this would be worse. The American Psychological Association published a report in November, and their estimate is that stress, which is now the number one cause of heart disease, siphons $550 billion off of the US economy. Wow. I can't hardly put billion in my eyesight. Like, I can't figure out how much money that is. I just know it's a heck of a lot. And I'm sure it's underestimating. Right? That's what they're simply able to count and recognize. And of course, it's in a bunch of different categories. So this is lost days at work. This is injuries to personnel. This is employee assistance cases. This is turnover. There are lots of ways in which that cost to business occurs. But I think we can get a little seduced by the numbers and forget really the essence of this, which is stress. Why is stress in the thing we spend our greatest waking hours engaged with, right? Our professional vocation is how we spend our lives. And if we're in workplaces where we are operating under high emotional and economic pressure, for many of us leading to a great deal of inertia, I get up, I go to work, I do my job, I punch out, I go home. And I'm too exhausted to be with family, to be engaged in my community, to pursue the dream of something that I have as my avocation. And as a society, we become numb. Now we're actually seeing it show up in the disease. So if you are ever wondering whether you make a difference, you do. Even if for simply that 30 minutes once a week, our clients can remember, oh yeah, I'm a whole human being and I'm at choice. And maybe the first choice is that they get to their session. And the next choice is they are leaving a half hour earlier. And the next choice is they get back to walking again, or whatever it is that they would find as a balancing agent to the sense of wholeness and well-being in their lives. And yes, I am talking about personal issues here first, because of course we're always coaching the whole being. And if you're talking to a chief human resources officer, they care about this too. If you're talking to a chief financial officer, they care about that number I just told you. We'll talk about a few more numbers too. If you're talking to a CEO who's wanting to expand the company, to reach into new markets, to bring the company to a different customer base, and they know that they must up-level the capacity of the workforce, they're going to want to understand that if the existing workforce is already exhausted, they are starting behind the starting line. They can't even get people to the block to run the race. So part of what I think is important in the way that we articulate the value proposition of coaching is to stop thinking about it from the coaching side and think about it from the customer's side. And, you know, traditional marketing talks about pain points, right? Make sure you're speaking to the pain point. And I suppose there's of course some wisdom in that. But I will tell you from my personal experience, I'm much more successful when I'm speaking to what's the overall dream, vision, mission, value system, principles that has an organization choose to exist in the first place. When I have an executive able to express them. There we go. She got it on mute. That when hold on one second. So when that executive is able to connect with themselves in the conversation with me about what their inspiration is for the organization, this is a step I call envisioning. How are they envisioning their current reality? Not the annual reports, not the thing they say to the investor community, not the kind of shiny language that they use in marketing brochures, but the thing that lives in that leader's heart. What gets them up every morning to join the organization and come give all of their life force to that particular endeavor? When a leader starts talking about that, you know it. And you can feel the resonance when you're sitting across from them that they deeply care about what they are endeavoring with. Doesn't matter whether they're selling rubber mats or they are they're in our business, right? They're helping workforces with computer software, or maybe it's a consulting firm, or maybe they're in the oil business. And it doesn't matter what industry that you're talking about. People are leading organizations because they care about something. And there is an alignment between their own sense of life purpose and the core purpose of the organization. And when you can engage them in celebrating that, you have permission to do the next step. Now, coaches, I want you to hear the parallel process. What do you do with the individuals you're talking to? When you're engaged with them, you're under contract, and you build relationship at the very beginning, you're connecting to what are they living right now in their lives that matches up to their sense of purpose in the world, and where are they not? So, of course, that's the next thing I do with a business leader. What are you inspired to create that's not yet manifest in your organization? And how come? What do you think the obstacles are? Where is it that the organization is in its own way? And if it got out of its own way, what would be different? So that's the inspire step, where that individual is having an opportunity to recognize there is something they want different, despite what might be going on right now. They don't yet believe they can have it. And that's where we come in, to help them to reconnect to their innate capacity to create something. They did it before, they built the company, or they were there to strengthen the company. Whomever it is and wherever they are in their role, they're there in that organization to create its vibrancy. And they do have a vision of what it is that they want. Our opportunity is to help them articulate that in a way that helps us then ask them, what will you break through in order to influence the organization to move in a different and more positive direction? So I am purposely speaking in a little bit of general terms, just to level set what we're up to here. So the bottom line to what I've said so far is what you do with an individual client is applicable to the conversation you have with leadership of a system, of a whole organization. It's not any different. When you're being coached, you have the great privilege to be curious on behalf of that executive and to support them to recognize, the missing formula is the thing we're not yet doing. If we're really good at our performance results and now we're wanting to go to the next level, it's not going to be done by pushing harder and willing our way to it, not if we want it to be sustainable. It needs to come by tapping into the latent potential of the workforce. All right, I'm going to pause there and certainly open it up here while I go to get some slides to comments, thoughts, even if I've said something that you don't agree with, maybe especially if that's true. Let me hear a few voices about what you've heard so far. That means you have to come off mute, by the way. And you do that by, if you click on the microphone in that lower left corner of your image, that will open up your mic. Truly, Marcus, I didn't think your community was this quiet.
Yeah, and I know they don't. Alguma questão, algum ponto que queiram colocar agora sobre essas ideias que a Janet está colocando? Ela primeiro fala do indivíduo, né? E depois desse papel que a gente pode ter junto das organizações. João, você quer falar? O João não consegue encontrar o microfone dele nem a imagem. Se você tem alguma pergunta, João, escreva que eu serei sua voz. Janet, João Pascoal is fighting with where is the mic? He's not able to find.
Should be on the lower left of his image.
Yeah, but something happened there, and
I'm going to unmute him. You're now unmuted.
Right, can you hear?
Yes, we can, Joel.
Okay,
Hi.
great. It's because I have my camera off. I cannot see my image, therefore no mic either.
Gotcha.
The question is, Janet, when sometimes the client is asking us something that would not force us, but change hats between being a coach that focus on questioning, going to advising. I would like to hear your voice on that one.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. It's one I get a lot, and it's a question I know I've personally navigated over my 25 plus years now of doing this work. And I will tell you truthfully, when I first started coaching, I really didn't understand what was possible by stepping out of the consulting hat. And so I'm back in the early 90s now, and I was doing a bit of consulting, and I was doing a bit of development work, and I was doing a bit of coaching work, and truly did not understand the distinctions amongst them. And I didn't seem to really matter, like whatever the client wanted, that's what I gave them. And over the years, I've become quite particular on this subject. And the reason I have is because I see the difference in the results for the client, both in terms of the speed with which they make change in their behavior and their mindset and their action, as well as the sustaining of that change in behavior, mindset, and action. And here's what I mean by that. I think we have an ethical responsibility when we say to a leader or a team, it doesn't matter, it's the same for both, that we perceive them as whole, resourceful, capable, and creative. And that those capacities they possess means that anything they want to pursue, they have everything necessary to do it. Whether they believe it or not at the beginning doesn't matter. And whether they understand fully the extent of resourcefulness and capability they possess at the beginning, it doesn't matter. But our partnership will have that as a foundation. Now, if I've said that to a client, and in the middle of our work, I begin to give them advice, what have I just done? Ethically, I have violated the commitment I made to them. And this is a very important point here that João is bringing up. There are times, of course, when my customers say, you've worked in XYZ industry. You've been with executives of this kind and stage in their career. I want to know what the best practices were in those other places. And I'll say to them, if you want to hire me as a consultant to give you those best practices and figure out how to integrate them, I'd be happy to engage with you in that way. If what you're wanting is for you personally to begin to behave and contribute in a new way, in other words, to have a different relationship to your role and your contribution to the organization, that's coaching. And what I know and what I've experienced is irrelevant, because you ultimately are going to know way more about yourself and you're going to know way more about your role than I will ever catch up to. So don't ask me to tell you how to do your job better. I can't answer that question. I can't even answer that as a consultant. I can simply give you an alternative. So what I'm talking through here is contracting. And the more disciplined we are to clarify for that leader of the organization, for that team, about what it is that they already possess, both in terms of tangible experience and competence, and the more intangible potential that they may not yet be tapping into, but is relevant to what they're doing. Our responsibility is to help them accept ownership for that and to realize that the relationship we're co-creating is one that is intended to allow it to emerge. That latent potential needs a place to be explored, discovered, experimented with, and begin to give it some tangibility for them. The minute I step in and say, but I think, or I've had this experience, or this company did this and you could do that too, we've essentially said, that's more important than what you would originate from within yourself. Now, we're talking about this at this more senior level to your individual leader, but imagine what's going on inside the system, as I've got here on the slide. True competitive advantage. The only source is your people. So if you're walking down the hallway, maybe you're in a warehouse for one of your customers and you're there on a site visit and you're watching the interaction that's happening between the frontline supervisors and the staff. And you notice that supervisors don't ask any questions. People come up to them, ask questions, they give answers, and they walk on to the next person. People seem to be in their own little cocoon or bubble, and they are not necessarily having fun. You're just watching this machine run. And I'm using that word in quotes a little bit, you know, that there's a steady flow of activity, but not a whole lot of relationship going on. And then the leader says to you, we're really struggling with turnover and it's a tight labor market and I can't keep personnel. And then they say, and our engagement scores are in the bottom decile. And I don't know what happened. We used to be in the top decile, but in the last 24 months, that's all changed. Well, you know where I'm going with this, right? The minute the pressure turns up, we find that managers stop talking to their people. They feel the pressure of producing results, so they figure out how to cut corners and drive harder and work longer and more overtime. And all we've done is make the symptom worse. It's like putting salt in a wound. Doesn't work. And so the opportunity for us as coaches is to sit down with that supervisor and say, when did you change the way that you were relating with your people? What was the moment when you decided to ask a little less and tell a little more, thinking it was faster than finding out what your people know, what their experience is, what their interests are, what they value about being at the organization, what it is that inspires them to come to work every day. When did you stop asking about those things? Because that's the moment they began to feel disrespected, separated, no longer belonging in that culture. And that's when you stopped getting the extra effort. That's the moment when they were in inertia, no longer there because of purpose being aligned, their own personal purpose with that of the company. It's where they stopped going the extra yard and tapping into their potential. And Lord knows, looking at the environment here as I walk through your warehouse, nobody's having any playtime. And we know sociologically, as human beings are social animals. We have social brains. Everything we do is based on experience. We take in information and we take in energy to see, is this something I'm finding familiar or foreign? Does it feel like it will be pleasing or uncomfortable? Now, I'm kind of tipping my hand a little bit because, of course, growth and learning requires having a little bit of discomfort. Otherwise, we're just operating out of our habit. But the way in which we have that discomfort is what matters. So think about the moment you decided to become coaches. Something in you said, I want a different experience of my professional life. Most of you probably said something like, I want to make a difference in people's lives. I want to serve. I want to contribute to something in a positive way. I want to move society towards something that has more peace, more love, more harmony. So just remember, connect back to that moment when you said that's what you wanted. And then you said, and I have no idea how to do that. I'm going to now go do some research, and I'm going to go find a company where I can get some training, and I'm going to find a community of people that are doing what it is that I want to do. And you've found your way. So that thing that was foreign and uncomfortable, you realized you weren't alone in that suffering, and you started to realize, oh, I don't need to suffer. There's support here. There's community here. And you were on your way. And you've not stopped being on your way. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this webinar today. So that experience, hopefully you're starting to see, is a parallel process to what goes on in an organization. An employee arrives at an organization because they have been courageous to say, I want something different in my life. And they tolerate that short-term discomfort of transferring from one company to the next. Happens all the time. In fact, today we know employees move jobs every 2 years on average when you're under the age of 40. Wow. I was at one of my careers for 16 years. I've actually been in this one now 25. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Where does the time go? But the younger generation isn't like that. If they don't get what they want, they're gone. And what do they want? Here's the kicker, guys. They want relationship. They want opportunity. They want to be developed. They want feedback. They want opportunities to stretch their wings and be well acknowledged for having taken the risk to do that. They want to make a difference. Yes, all of us want to do that. That's not a difference among generational category. We have, as human beings, a big heart for each other. And as leaders, when we can remember this and not get out of balance with our push for performance, is when we start to wake up and realize, wow, if I was attending to the happiness and well-being of my workforce, I will achieve the performance goals that I'm seeking. Now, of course, there are some executives who say, I don't believe you. That's not true. I'm going to come back to this one in just a second. But what we know from the research is that only 15% of companies succeed in transforming the organization. Well, look at the data. 54% say insufficient leadership and support. So these are the individuals in the organization who say people are expenses on the balance sheet. They're a necessary component of producing the result. We're going to pay attention to getting more customers, and if we need to replace the assets, we will. Really, that's not going to make for a sustaining organization. And we've seen that. The average tenure of CEOs has dropped from 16 years to 8 just in the last decade. Stunning changes are going on in the labor force. 62% cite that poor communication was the reason that led to change failure. And of course, that word communication is just loaded as all get out. So the question is, communication of what? Now, all of you are experts in change. You may not think you are, but you are. That's what coaches are always doing. We're inviting change with our clients. So what are we communicating about when we're successful as coaches? We help people see their reality. We create awareness about what they're experiencing. We help them to realize that they are perceiving of their environment way more than they let themselves make meaning of, interpret, and start to realize I can make different choices. We help build clarity about what they believe, what their assumptions are, what their habits are, what their preferences are that have just been going on for so long unconsciously that they don't realize they've outgrown them. Those beliefs are not serving them anymore. When we build that clarity of motivation, they're able to make different choices. How do they decide? They decide by getting some alignment to their core values and to their principles. So the communication that's poor has to do with all of those things. Does the workforce understand why change is valuable to them? Are they able to connect their motivation for being at that organization, that connection to purpose and potential, to this change that the organization is wanting to make? And you can't just say it once. Oh my gosh, if I've spent 5 years in an organization and I'm loving it and all of a sudden you pull the rug out from underneath me, you better tell me more than once why being rugless is okay. We don't sustain the communication. And ultimately, giving people an opportunity to say, I am now aligned and I am on board. And so this is a huge area where coaches make a big difference. So to Joao's question, look at the last one, 35% of employees don't feel that their leaders listen to them. What is the business we're in? We're in the business of deep listening to others. And if we are, for whatever reason, thinking that they want to know what we know, as opposed to trusting what they know in themselves, we basically have mimicked the very thing they're doing in their organization that causes the failure to change. We're not giving them a chance to listen to themselves. And if a leader can't listen to themselves, they can't listen to their organization. So the moral to the story here, Joao, is stay and coach. And be transparent with leaders to help them understand the value you contribute, for them to have a critical thinking partner that deeply listens 100% on their behalf, who will not cross that line and violate the truth that they do have answers that are useful to them. And that doesn't mean deny them your consulting prowess. If you have that, your acumen in a certain industry or in a certain process tool, that's wonderful. Just don't commingle it. Don't violate the trust of the coaching process until the leader has said, now I see what's necessary for me to shift in the way I'm behaving. And as I do that, I want to access this other tool. So now let's talk about that tool in a separate meeting. That's fantastic. But keep the coaching consistent and true. Give it some integrity that we really do believe in you, leader, that you have everything necessary to navigate the change that you want. When they learn to listen to themselves, they will learn to listen to others. And all these failure points here get replaced with success. We know that paying attention is good for business. We've seen study after study after study. There is a direct correlation between a healthy, productive culture and the company's bottom line. That's all about cultivating culture, ongoing. It's not a project. It's not an initiative. It's about your ecosystem. Culture is a little bit like brand. You see it in the reflection as opposed to something that you are producing. And it comes through organizational learning. Ultimately, What do we see when we bring a coach-centered approach to culture inside of organizations? We're building human agility. And it shows up in increases in profitability, increases in productivity, and I think most importantly, the increase in customer satisfaction. Where does customer sat come from? Employee satisfaction. Customers have an experience of talking to people. People have their experience come to life. This is the reason why the CFO will care about these numbers, because ultimately we want to grow that customer base and we want to retain that customer base. Any of you that have studied marketing know it is a lot less expensive to cultivate an existing customer to expand how much business they do with us than it is to acquire a brand new one. How does that happen? Through the relationship between employees and customers at every single touch point. And for those of you that are thinking about what do we do with artificial intelligence? What do we do with robotics? What's the impact going to be on industry of this? My humble opinion, it's going to place a higher premium on the ability to build relationships, because all of that more repetitive work will get replaced. And what's left? Creativity, innovation, origination, being able to recombine things, to be very quick and adaptable to change that's happening in our environment, being able to work on a zero geography basis, 24/7. How do I team and reteam with great speed? That means being able to build rapport. What do we do as coaches? We give people back the facility to be able to create heart-centered relationship with each other. We are the catalyst that allows for cultivation of culture that creates human agility in a healthy workplace possible. Okay, you guys got me on a roll, talking way too much. Thank you, Joao, for that question. And
Thank you.
Let's step back a little bit and see what people have to say, what comments are popping.
Pessoal, alguma pergunta? No? Janet, I have a question for you.
Great.
I noticed in the previous chart that you use human agility.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean with the human agility?
I'll give you a really personal example, and then we can extend it into organizations. I remember when I worked in financial services, one of the things that we valued greatly was having a process that you could repeat over and over. Predictability in producing results was really important. And I was working, the thing I'm remembering, I was working in what was called the control cashiers function. So my job every day was to look at the bank balances across the world in each of our branch offices and figure out how much money I needed to spend to settle trades, and then what was left over and investing it. Well, you can imagine large numbers, lots of risk. I had a 35-minute window to do this task every day. And we had this funny thing. I had my desk in my boss's office, and there was a dartboard over my head. And I'd finish my calculations, and before he'd review it, he'd say, okay, let's throw the darts. And we would throw the darts at the dartboard towards the number that he thought I had arrived at for how much we were going to be investing that day. And I remember thinking how silly this activity was. But what I realized in the rearview mirror was that he was helping me balance my left brain analysis that I had done to remember to also trust my gut, because it's always an imperfect science. He was teaching me human agility. That while I was really good, I was very effective at the numbers. And I could remember bank balances several days later. I knew exactly where everybody stood across the network. And we had 260 branch offices. That's a lot. And some days you just knew that there was something going on in the market, and we were going to have trade settling later in the day that was going to require more cash. So you didn't invest quite as much. And other days there was something where you thought, you know what, we could park this for a couple of days longer. Let's go get a few extra basis points on that investment. Those are agile decisions that come from trusting our sensing and our wisdom of intuition and our instinct that comes from experience, as opposed to the more traditional follow coloring within the lines. and don't deviate outside of them. We've tried in organizations for a long time to take out the risk in making decisions. But in the process, we've taken out the purpose and the play and the potential. We've made people run scared. And then we want them to exercise initiative, and they don't know how. They don't remember. They actually don't even realize they have permission to. And I think in a lot of organizations, this is what coaching contributes, is that we restore the access to that agility to be in both our left brain, rational, concrete, sequential reasoning capacity, with our right brain, more intuitive, instinctive, creative, and innovative, originating kind of work. We need both of them. It's not one or the other, ever. And a whole human being is more satisfied. We feel a sense of completeness in ourselves when we're using both left and right brain capacity. So agility is the opportunity to say, what's called for in this situation? Who am I in front of? What is it that we're working on? What parts of what we're working on already feels solid and true? What's the not known part? What does that call for from me? Sometimes it might call for left brain analysis. But if we've been going down that road and we can't get to a decision, I want to have the agility to insert some right brain creativity. Now, I can't do any of that if I'm not that way inside myself. So again, the intrinsic value of coaching is giving back to a leader access to that agility inside of themselves. And as they do that, they give permission to the organization to behave in that way. And now you see an organization that knows how to bring flow to the work that they're doing. We always must connect the dotted line between the end results of an organization and how a leader's behavior has influenced the production of those results. That's our job as coaches. We have that as professionals as an obligation. So when we're pitching new business, when we're negotiating a contract, when you're writing an RFP response, be thinking always about articulating the connection between what it is the organization is wanting to achieve and how it ties back to how leaders are behaving in the workplace. Because that's the lever we have, is to help to first identify what's the new behavior or mindset or action, and second, to create the conditions for them to choose it. First, see that it's valuable to them, and then choose it and experiment with it and practice with it till it feels like it's integrated in second nature, and then roll it out across the organization. And doing that with many leaders and doing that with teams of those leaders, this is how we cultivate culture for human agility.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you very much. I think this enlarges our understanding and perspective about this human agility and how to deal with this as a coach.
Exactly. So
just to remind you, we have more 5 minutes. Unfortunately, it's the reality.
Yep, I understand. So absolutely inviting the group to bring you questions. I wanted to show 2 more things. This will take 60 seconds. And obviously you'll share the slides with everybody, and we can keep this conversation going in the virtual world. I'm happy to have anyone reach out to me by email. But the image on the screen is a way to maybe up-level your thinking about the system of an organization. Every organization has a core purpose. How well do they live it? How congruent are they? And they have strategies for people and how they relate to people. And they have operations. Any one of these entry gates is a place for coaches to make a contribution by opening a leader's thinking that the true advantage, the only true advantage, is their people. And whether we're talking about how they bring people in, or how they transition to jobs, or how they're doing performance, or what organizational health is, I don't care where you start. Every starting point is about helping a leader come back home to their own wholeness. And the way that we think about that is in this image. And this is where, I'll stop and we'll see if there's any last questions. At inviteCHANGE, we talk about the generative wholeness way, and this has emerged for us in the last 4 or 5 years because we always are asking the question, why does what we do as coaches work? What is it that is our contribution that has people thrive despite making substantive changes to the way that they live in the world, both personally and professionally? And where I landed was that there's really 4 parts to being generative. And they are originate. So trusting something deep within ourselves that has an idea emerge, something we never thought of before, something we don't see anybody else has thought of before. It's like, oh, we could do this. And then not stopping there, but being disciplined to say, and how might we bring that into physical form? That's the act of creating, making it tangible and real and actionable. And ultimately, we're not going to be right most of the time, the first time we bring it tangible. So the ability to experiment as a learner. So much of the current literature talks about failing fast. I really encourage you to talk with your leaders about learning fast. It's about experimenting and seeing what produced here that we thought was useful and what was not useful, and what was it that we maybe missed in our awareness, or what assumption did we make that was faulty. That the learning cycle, the faster we can make that learning, the more often when we go to finally produce a final result, will it match what we wanted. So this is a cycle. We use all 4 of these, not in any particular order. They're always operating. And they are far more successful if the human beings who are being generative are operating from the center of who they are, the authentic self. Being true to the essential traits, to their values, to their principles, and finding that place of freedom that's possible when we know who we are. And that's what we do as coaches. We help people remember who they are and to look out the front windshield and keep being on the path of becoming ever more fully expressed in the world. So thank you. Fun to be with you.
Thank you, Janet. I think your words are very inspiring. And I have to say, I feel that always you give us a very good example of speak from the heart. Thank you very much.
You are very, very welcome.
Pessoal, temos aqui alguns minutos, ou pelo menos 1 ou 2, não sei se tem ainda alguma pergunta que precisa ser feita. Lembrando da última palavra, autêntica, tá? E authentic. E, bom, pessoal, se não há nenhuma outra questão aqui que surja entre as milhares que podem estar por aí, né? Então, eu vou encerrar esse webinar. Janet, I don't know if you, the people don't have questions. I think we have a lot of questions, but we don't have time.
I'm happy to stay for a little longer if you want to answer some questions. That's all right with me.
For me, it's okay. What do you think, people? O que vocês acham, pessoal?
Posso fazer uma só?
Sim.
Rapidinho. If we thought in some points, constructive alignment, competitiveness, social brain, new reality, build confidence, creativity, and human agility. And in all these aspects, exactly which would be the essential,
Right, good question.
For us?
So, George, what I would say in my experience is that most accomplished professionals are good in 2 of them already.
Yeah.
That their personality as they arrived as adults naturally has two of them pretty much as an unconscious competence. And two of them, not so much. And you can usually identify it pretty early on in a conversation if you say to someone, what are you most proud of in your work? What are the contributions that you're most excited and lifted up by? What do you naturally find yourself gravitating to in the big set of things that you do in your job? And you're going to hear that some people naturally originate. They just love the world of new ideas. But if you then ask the next set of questions about what are the things in your job role that are not quite so much fun, you put them off, you procrastinate, they're not the things you like to do, or you find that you're getting feedback that in some way compromises what you think your contribution is. Those are going to be in other places. It's often true that people who are really good at ideas, not so good at creating. They don't have the patience for it. They don't have the diligence for it. People that are really good at producing results, sales teams, classic in sales teams. They're really good at driving sales revenue, but they're not interested in stopping to say, I wonder if we could do a better job of partnering with marketing, which would require doing some learning. Right? So you'll notice in conversation that these four capacities will naturally emerge, and you'll see where the two are that are really strong and where the two are that needs development. And I don't mean this as a scientific assessment. What I'm sharing with you here is our experience in working with thousands of leaders over the last couple of decades. These are patterns that I've noticed. And simply by bringing those to the surface and naming them for a client, they begin to see, wow, that's true. I don't really like doing that stuff. And then the bigger question is it that you don't like doing it, or you haven't given yourself an opportunity to learn how to do it? I have some wonderful friends that I met when I worked in information technology. I was the business architect for a while when I was at Schwab, and I had all these people that were data modelers and software interface designers, total technology geeks. I never understood what they were talking about. But what I saw is as they were leaving the workforce, they went and did things like playing music and improv theater and oil painting and adventurous things that seemed completely opposite to what they'd done in their professional career. Well, what are they doing? They're building the other side that their job didn't allow to manifest in their latent potential. So I think our opportunity is to help them see the possibility is for here for you to fully and robustly live into your wholeness here in your professional vocation. And let's explore that through coaching. And obviously the contribution to the organization of that has a huge positive ripple effect. Did that answer your question, George? Yeah, good. Okay, let's see.
Pessoal, mais alguma pergunta? Okay.
So I see the question about, or the comment here, right? About being uncomfortable to relate to the company's result. I wonder if you have a sense for what the discomfort is about. What's the source of the discomfort? I do believe that this is a weakness in our coach development work at every stage of a coach's learning journey, which to me is a lifelong process. That we're not as diligent about helping people understand how a system works. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about a government or an educational institution or a for-profit company or a not-for-profit company. How does the system actually continue to operate? And that system level thinking is what supports us in being able to say, when I change X behavior, as I work down the line, it will change Y results in this system. And that's a way of thinking, a way of being able to envision and articulate cause and effect. And I think this is an area of study for coaches that would be very useful. I happen to like Otto Scharmer's work, which is Theory U. He's an academic, really smart, scary guy. But I think his writing, Leading into the Future, is the big book. You could find Theory U on the web. You'll find lots of free material and some YouTubes. He's a place to start if there's some system thinking learning you're wanting to engage with.
You're right. The works of Otto Scharmer is wonderful. The U theory is very inspiring.
Yeah.
Pessoal, alguma pergunta a mais? Se não, nesse momento eu vou encerrar o nosso webinar agora. Janet,
Yes.
More questions. Silvana Hughes.
Hi, arrived.
Aline too. Great.
Yes.
Alguma pergunta, pessoal? Vocês que apareceram.
I really love that last slide. I really love that. I think it condenses lots of things that we use usually. So it's very
wonderful.
graphic. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful, good. Well, I don't know if Marcus has shared this, but I don't think there's anything new we do in coaching. None of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't actually believe in holding tight to anything. It's in the ether. And so please feel free to use any of this if it's useful to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Janet, could you share your presentation with us?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Janet, hi, it's Aline here. I don't know, Marcus, can you hear me? Is it?
Yes.
Yes.
I can hear you. Aline. Aline is another director of ICF Brazil.
Well, thank you for your service.
The finance side.
Janet, you spoke so many ideas, inspiring ideas, and different perspectives of how we will be dealing with corporate clients and so forth. I have a more simple question, and it's more related to the work ethics around information. When you are dealing, of course, in the corporate world, and you have HR, you have the client, you have the leader, you have colleagues, and so forth. In executive coaching, when I do that practice, I usually engage not only with the person who I am coaching, not only the coachee, but with other executives, and then asking questions and then having more information about how that executive works within the organization and so forth. Having so much feedback on one person and then having a lot of pressure from the leader and from HR to give feedback to them, to be transparent, right? So this is a very simple, maybe a stupid question, but my question is, how do you deal with that? So you as the coach have a lot of information about your coachee, and not in the personal side, but more in the behavior side of how that person is being perceived by different levels in the organization. How do you deal with that?
Aline, this is a very important question, and I'm glad you've surfaced it. And it is one that happens all over the world at all levels of coach. And I'm going to share with you our practice at inviteCHANGE, and it's one that I've followed for a very long time now, because I found myself in the middle of a lot of finger pointing and firestorms in the old approach, which used to be hold a meeting with all the constituencies and the candidate for coaching, I'm sorry, I don't like the term coachee, so I don't use it. But the individual who is the beneficiary of the coaching often feels like the one sitting in the chair in the center of the circle.
Right.
It's not comfortable. That is not a good place to go. And so I got to really thinking about what is the purpose an organization has for engaging coaches. Ultimately, they're wanting to raise the performance of the organization. And they've clearly seen that the way a leader behaves is the pathway to do that. So they're wanting development. By definition, they're saying development matters. It's important to us. Well, we don't ever do anything in a vacuum. So why would we have a third party intervene in the relationship between a leader and their boss, or a leader and their peers, or a leader and their human resource business partner? Why would a third party be advantageous? We don't know the culture. We might get some insights, but we're always going to know it from the outside in, not the inside out. We are not able to deeply listen to the traditions and the cultural norms. We'll get some insight, but we're never going to know it at the level that the people do that live inside the organization. And one must learn to navigate those in order to be successful and stay within that organization. So we need to get out of the way. So now what we do, and we set up an executive coaching assignment, whether we're on the bench on an ongoing basis or a one-off, the conversation with the sponsor and either the coaching program manager or the HR person, and we don't take the gig unless they agree that their feedback collection will happen directly with the candidate receiving coaching. Our commitment is to prepare that person who we're coaching to have those conversations in the system. So once a coaching development plan for the leader is established, their homework assignment after that happens is to go to the HRBP, to go to their boss, to go to the program manager for coaching and talk it through with them. And there's a place on the plan for them to say, and my request of you, boss, is that on this project where I'm going to be using some of these new skills, I want regular feedback from you about how I'm doing. And HRBP, what I want from you is I want you to keep your ear to the ground so that you have a sense of how my peers are noticing that I'm changing my behavior, and is it creating the improvement that we all agree is in my and the company's best interest. So that we're instilling development as a skill that the leader possesses, and they own those relationships.
So what you're saying, Janet, see if I fully understood you. What you're saying is that it's not me as the coach that goes to each of these people, peers and boss and teams and so forth to get feedback on my client. It is that person, the client, that goes to get feedback on himself.
Yes.
And then passes all the information on to me as the coach, and then we work from there.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's I will tell you that HR people who are used to the old way will kind of go, what? So you might need to spend some time kind of talking through and really to help them understand they really are not serving themselves by having a third party do this. And that actually came out of the thinking of coaching as a way to remedy poor performance, which is not the highest and best use of coaching. You can use it there, but it's not the highest and best use. Even when you're trying to remedy poor performance, the question I always ask the sponsor is, so how long has this person been at the organization? Oh, 10 years. And for how long were they an excellent employee? Well, until about a year ago. And what happened a year ago? Well, I don't know. I said, it would be useful to look at that because you have 9 out of 10 years of excellent contribution. Are you sure you want to let all of that institutional wisdom leave the organization by managing them out? Makes no sense at all. Right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be a system reason. And the organization learns because we challenge them to think that through.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Just a clarification for our folks here. A última palavra é autêntica, ok? Para todo mundo saber. Eu acho que está ficando mais interessante. Será que a gente não tem mais uma última pergunta? Ah, no? You know, Janet, I think the people are shy or are thinking a lot what I truly believe and very inspired from your words. Okay, and I have to say again that thank you very much from the deep of my heart for this wonderful opportunity, for your very inspired words. And I hope we can continue to have this kind of opportunity to talk, to expand our perceptions. Thank you very much.
Oh, so very welcome. And please know you can reach out anytime. I love talking to ICF chapters and supporting coaches and pursuing whatever their next level of excellence is. And we're all better together. So if you decide you want to do something like this again in another quarter, just let me know. You know where to find me.
Yes. I know. Ok, pessoal, muito obrigado por essa oportunidade de todos juntos.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Janet. Thank you.